and the food was really great. For me personally, as a vegetarian, it was really easy to find meals and eat things that I could eat. I never felt like there was nothing I could eat. Hi everyone, so today I'm going to be making a video about my first ever solo trip, which was actually in Guatemala, and I stayed there for 7 days in total. And I'm going to be talking more about how I felt, what led up to taking my first ever solo trip, and any tips or advice I would give to any women that are traveling alone or are entertaining the idea of wanting to take a solo trip, especially because as a woman traveling alone, it could be very, very dangerous. There's a lot of things to think about, but I did it and I'm really happy that I'm able to talk about it and share my experiences with you all. One of the reasons why I decided to take a solo trip was because that was actually my New Year's resolution for 2023, and I remember even writing on my journal that I want to explore more and being more alone and okay with my own solitude. And I am happy that I did do that and take that action to complete that. Yeah, so it was really great. But anyways, that was one of them. And then also because I felt like lately in Houston, I've been always around people and I forgot what it was like to be alone with myself. And another one is because it's just really, sometimes it can be very, very difficult to plan things out with friends. A trip is really a lot with other people. And I just felt like it was just difficult to plan things out on the normal with a friend, like planning, let's say, getting lunch together or doing these things. And I was like, I'm not gonna be waiting on anyone, and I refuse to do that, so I'm just gonna book a trip and just go. And I did, and I'm really happy I did that. So yeah, those are kind of like some reasons of why, but the biggest one is just because I really wanted to do that and go alone and yeah, just experience like solo traveling. And I'm really happy I did that because I learned so much about myself and also other people too, and a lot about traveling and Guatemala as well. It was such a great experience. But okay, oh yeah, so I was there for 7 days in total. How I prepared for this trip, honestly, I booked my flight and I did not think about it until like 2 weeks before, or three, maybe like 2-ish weeks, and that's when I started to book where I was gonna stay at. I stayed in hostels, which was a really great experience, especially if you're going alone. I generally recommend that. Maybe Airbnbs. Well, it depends on what you want out of your trip. I know for me personally, what I wanted out of my trip was to be alone, experience things, be able to socialize, but socializing wasn't at the top of my list. I was like, if it happens, it happens. If not, that's fine. And also, I really wanted to experience traveling and experience traveling on not a budget, but seeing it as something that's attainable and not a very expensive thing I could do. And because I feel like in social media and in society, traveling is seen as or portrayed as something very luxurious and very expensive, and I just genuinely wanted to prove that to myself, like, no, you could do this and it could be very, very non-expensive or not extremely luxurious as it's portrayed. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I stayed in hostels, because they're very non-expensive. Like, it's a very great way to meet people and socialize and make friends, and it was a really, really great experience. So yeah, so I think 2 weeks before I started booking for my places where I was gonna stay at and like planning things out, I kind of just made a list of things that I wanted to do or check off, or places that I wanted to eat. The best places to look at would be TikTok, because it's like not normal people who you know that have gone there and they make their own videos, and I feel like that was like the quickest way I could just find that information. Usually in the past, I would just go on YouTube and like see if like people would make their own videos of their trip. Like, I would look up girls trip at this location, or you know, just like my 7 days or a vacation at this location, but anyways, yeah, so this time I looked up on TikTok, and yeah, and as well with finding out what to do, where to eat, hostels and everything, it was genuinely like because of TikTok and that app, and also Instagram too. Like, there would be a lot of reels. But anyways, yeah, so that's when I started to plan things out and like laying out my itinerary. And originally I was actually supposed to stay in Antigua, Guatemala, but I I ended up going to Lake Atitlan. So I flew into Guatemala City and I took a what is it called, a shared ride with someone else who was also on my flight, who happened to be a solo traveler too, and she was a woman, and we just bonded, and it was really cool. But yeah, so I flew into Guatemala City, and then we drove to Antigua because that other person was also driving to or gonna stay in Antigua. I think I stayed in Antigua for 4 days, 4 days I think, or 5. Anyways, yeah, 4-ish days, 4 to 5 I think. No, I flew in on Tuesday, and then I left there like Saturday morning, and then Saturday till Tuesday, no, till late Monday, I stayed in Lake Atitlan, and then I stayed back in Guatemala City. I did an overnight stay at a different hostel that was really close to the airport, and it was so convenient. So yeah, that was kind of how I had planned. Originally, I was just supposed to do Antigua, Lake Atitlan, and then go back, but then that day of, I realized that I didn't want to commute very, very early because my flight was early in the morning, and I would have to take like I want to say 3-hour drive and a boat ride. So I was like, I shouldn't risk it on the last day, so I decided to leave earlier. But yeah, and let's see, what else did I do to prepare? Obviously financially, I budgeted for that, and I kind of was able to look at what other people ate, what they did, activities they did, and how much that would cost would be. Let's see. And obviously I bought fits, and I genuinely feel like what I packed was not the best because when I got there it was raining a lot. But yeah, and who I told, let's see, I told really, really close friends, like my really, really close friends. And what else? I told my mom I think the day before I was gonna leave to Guatemala, just because I didn't want her to worry. And I remember being on the phone call with her, and I was like really nervous. I told one of my sisters, and I was like, I don't really want to tell her because I don't want to stress her out. And my sister was like, no, you need to tell her. And I was like, okay. And so I told her, and she was like, okay, like that's cool. Who are you going with? And I was like, oh, by myself. And she's like, are you going by yourself? And she was just freaking out. But then she was like really supportive because I told her how I moved to Houston by myself, and I was like, Mom, if I did that, I'm pretty sure I'll be okay with the trip. But yeah, and yeah, she was very supportive towards the end of our phone call. Let's see how I felt. Okay, so yeah, honestly, yeah, I had booked my trip and I didn't really think about it. Like, I didn't entertain those thoughts at all. Like, I'd just be like, okay, I booked it, I forgot about it. It's like when you when you order something on Amazon and you might I don't know if people do this, but they forget and they're like, oh my god, a package is here. That's me with my trip, mainly because I didn't want to entertain any expectations or just thoughts of it. I was just like, I'm going to travel, I'm going alone, and that was kind of that. I just didn't attach really any emotions to it, which I feel like was a good thing for me. It wasn't until the day before my flight that one of my friends came to like see me and like wish me goodbye and everything, and one of them was like, I'm just so worried for you, like what if this happens, or like you just need to be careful. And that's like one of the reasons why I didn't really tell a lot of people, because I love my friends and I know they love me and want the best for me, but I just didn't want their thoughts and opinions on my trip, going alone and solo traveling, just because I know it's something that could be very dangerous as a woman going alone, but at the same time I'm not gonna let that stop me, and I don't think it should stop anyone, because you could really, like, there's danger everywhere. Like, Houston is very dangerous as well. In the United States, it's very dangerous. You just have to really be aware of your surroundings, and I feel like I did a really good job at that. But yeah, so I just respectfully, I just didn't want to hear their opinions or thoughts, because I was like, well, like, I already know, at the back of my head or back of my mind, I was already thinking about like, oh my god, like if I let myself think too much about it, I would just second guess it. And that's kind of what happened the night before, because my friend kind of like put all her worries on me. It felt like it, and I know it just came out of a place of love and concern, but then I was just like thinking like, oh my god, what the heck did I get myself into? And I just couldn't sleep that night. I was like, oh my god, I was like, what if I don't come back? And I just like was downward spiraling. But then I was like, pull yourself together, it's gonna be fine, like it's gonna be great, you're not, like you need this. And the next morning I took my flight, and it was really good. And even on my flight, It wasn't bad. Like I sat next to like two seniors, and they were like a cute little couple. And oh yeah, one thing I recommend is if you're solo traveling as a woman, have a story already prepared and be ready for people to ask you questions. Because my story was, oh, I'm going here to visit my brother, and I was like, okay, I think that should be fine. Nobody's gonna ask any more questions. But that's where you're wrong, because people are very social and they want to know more about you. So there was a situation, it's in the airplane, when the couple like they were asking like, oh, like why are you going to Guatemala? What are you? They only asked because they wanted to like just get to know people. Like I feel like when you're traveling, people are just so open to getting to know other people and their story. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna visit my brother. And then they were like, oh yeah, what does he do there? And then I was like, he works at the hotels. And he's like, oh, they were like, oh, in what city? Does he work in Guatemala City? And I was like, he works at Antigua. I'm like, but I'm gonna meet him there. And I was gonna go on and say like what his job title was, but I was like, I can't even think of a single job title. So that moment was just like humbling for me, because I was like, yeah, I need to like put more effort into my story of like why I'm going there, who I'm meeting with. I feel like the best that you could do is always have like, make sure, I feel like the best thing is like say that you're gonna meet either a group of friends or someone family related, and that like you guys are gonna do these activities together. And yeah, like that's that. But yeah, anyways, so so I never really felt anxious on like during my trip. There was this one situation where I did feel like unsafe, which I will talk about later. But so I got there in the airport, and then I took a ride that was shared with another girl who also left Houston to Guatemala. And it was just like from the start, it was so easy to socialize, because people are just very open to talking to other people. And yeah, we were just like talking about like how we ended up there in Guatemala. She literally told me that she booked her flight the night before, which I thought was crazy but really cool at the same time. And yeah, and oh, I would recommend, if you are solo traveling, another tip is that what helped me a lot was that I was able to speak Spanish, because I am Mexican American and my first language was Spanish. So it was easy to speak Spanish. Well, a bit, you know, because I grew up speaking Spanish, but then I had to learn English, and my Spanish is not the best. So yeah, but I mean, I can understand it, but speaking it, I can, but sometimes I get nervous. Like, I am a full-hearted no sabo kid. Some of the words be messing me up. And the thing is with Spanish, the dialects can be different, and even in parts of Mexico, let alone like a whole different country. Like Puerto Rican Spanish is so different from Dominican, from Mexican Spanish, from Colombian Spanish, like so anyways, yeah. I would definitely recommend, if you are solo traveling, if you are a Latina that speaks Spanish, go to a Spanish speaking country, because it's just easier, and it's easier to also blend in and just understand things. I found myself during my trip to be able to translate things for other people, and it was a lot easier. I mean, you can go to another country and not speak their language, but I feel like that's gonna make things a lot harder. Like for me, I'm taking baby steps, and I was just like, I need to go to a Spanish speaking country. So yeah. And also it helped me, like I said, my Spanish isn't the best, so it definitely helped me to get out of my comfort zone to speak more Spanish and be more confident in it. Did I have situations where I was not completely confident? Yes, but that's also part of the learning process. So I took a shared ride, and then we just talked and bonded, and it was really cool meeting someone else. And then what else? I had the taxi driver drop me off in the middle of Antigua. Well, it was like the central city. Like there was a park there, and there was like a bunch of like an ATM and everything, and a bunch of stores and all that. And so I had my first lunch, I would say, because I was very hungry, and I had my big ass book bag with me. I felt like a European traveling or backpacking, because there was a lot of Europeans in Guatemala, which I was surprised. But yeah, so yeah, I had my meal, and it felt so calming. That's the one thing I was a little bit nervous before my trip, thinking that I wasn't going to be okay with my own company, but it surprisingly felt so peaceful. Like I forgot how peaceful it was to just have my own meal, and I just felt like I was romanticizing the hell out of my life in that moment because I had gotten ratatouille, I think that's what it's called, like a vegetable plate, and then with some sauce and some red wine, and it was nice, and it was a room full of like plants, which I love, and there was no one else in the restaurant on that side that I was, and it was just me, and the waiter was so polite and so sweet, and I was just like, oh my god, like I just felt so happy and at peace. And I had so many moments like that in the trip, and it just felt so nice and reassuring because I was like, wow, like I love being alone, and it feels so good, and I feel so at peace and so happy, and I genuinely feel like that was such a great experience. And yeah, so it was just a nice meal that I had, and then I had to go do errands, like look for or exchange money, check into my hostel. Looking for my hostel, I was kind of scared because it took me a while to look for my hostel because it's hard to see the signs in Antigua. Like they don't really have signs out that like are very in your face. So I walked the same block like 4 times looking for my hostel, and I was like freaking out because I was like, oh my gosh, did I get scammed? Like what if this hostel doesn't even exist? Until I finally found it, and I was like, oh, okay, like I'm happy that I found it. And then checking in wasn't so bad. It was very easy and smooth, and I loved my hostel. It was so amazing. I stayed in Somo's hostel, and it was the most, I felt like so clean. They had a hot tub, the showers, and like there was a sense of privacy, which I really liked because I know you can't really get much privacy in a hostel, but at that one I just felt like it was perfect, and it was social but also quiet and clean, very clean. And yeah, and so I stayed there, and that first day I just did errands, and I just felt like I was stressed because I was like, oh my god, I don't feel like I'm on vacation because I'm like up and down the streets. And the thing about Antigua, I feel that I didn't really plan that well, was like the shoes and what to wear. If you ever go to Antigua, Guatemala, you definitely should not pack heels unless you want to break an ankle. Like I am being so serious, especially because it was raining when I was there and they literally have like cobblestones on as their like sidewalks, so you do not want to be walking in heels there, let alone like flats that were very slippery when it was raining. But anyways, yeah, so the first day I was just running errands, getting to know the town, and it was really nice. And then yeah, I believe the next day I had booked a volcano hike so that was really great, and I did it with Wicho and Charlie's company. I think that's her name, Wicho and Charlie, and I found that company out through TikTok, which was really great. And the reason why I booked with them was because I've never hiked a day in my life ever. Like I'm not an avid hiker, so I had no idea what I was signing myself up for, but I knew that I liked this company because they provided all the gear. I just showed up with some shorts, a t-shirt, a Red Bull, and some sneakers, like Nike sneakers. I didn't even have hiking boots or anything. And they provided breakfast, lunch, and dinner, all the gears. Like there was like 3 layers of like a thin jacket, a like fleece, I think that's what it's called, fleece, and a big jacket, and a hiker book bag, the stick thingies that you use, and what else? Water bottles, snacks as well. I think I have videos of it. I will try to include it, but if not, I'm gonna make a TikTok about this, so I'll attach the link below with my experience. And it was just really great. When I got there, I was really able to meet people through that experience and just feel safe because it was just like a group of us, and obviously there was staff there, so I don't think they would want anyone to go missing during their trip. So yeah, and I just like pushed myself to socialize. There was a moment where I was like pushing it to socialize with a group of people, and I could tell that they weren't really like having it, and I was like, okay, like I felt so awkward, and I was like like it's gonna be fine. And I kind of felt like I wanted to be like, oh, like I can't, like I literally felt like running away, but obviously I couldn't. So because I could just tell like they were being polite, but you know when people are being polite but they don't ask you questions to you, or they don't like seem as interested in getting to know you. So I was like and as like the instructors or the instructors were telling us like what to do, what to pack, all the timing of the plan, we were like there eating breakfast, and then like they dismissed us to like start basically shopping for our hike, which is basically getting all the materials that we need. I like moved to a different table and started like trying to pack my book bag, my hiking book bag, which I did not even know which side was up or down. And I just got frustrated because I was like, okay, what do I do? How do I pack this? And so I asked this girl and I was like, hey, could I like pack my book bag with you guys? I generally don't know what I'm doing. And she was so sweet, and I generally vibed with them, and I ended up like talking to them more, and she helped me. She was like, oh yeah, you want to pack this at the bottom and then this at the top, and just gave me advice. And I was like, okay. And then the thing is that I also asked questions too. I asked questions to the people who work there, and it helped me practice my Spanish too. Like, I know they spoke English, but I was like, oh, I want to practice my Spanish. And it was just nice talking to them, and they were like Which and Charlie, like the staff there was so friendly, and they were just so open to like obviously answering any questions. I had a lot, like every 5 minutes I'd go back and be like, do you recommend using this or this? Like, I've never hiked in my life, and there's no shame in that. And they were so friendly, like so friendly and helpful. But yeah, and so that was that experience. And then they took, it was like a car ride or a bus ride to there. I forgot how long it was. And then we did our hike. That was very brutal. It was a 6-hour hike going up, and then I did an additional hike of, I think, 3 hours. It was 1.5, I think, down, and then 1.5 up to get a closer view to Fuego. And yeah, that was brutal. That was very, very brutal, because it was only 5 of us, I believe, and I was the only girl, and I was always at the end, which is okay. And I remember when we were going on our decline, it was fun because we were going so fast, but I kept falling on my ass so many times. Like by the 5th time I was like, whatever, like I'm not even embarrassed anymore. But the guys that I went with, they were such a very like nice and polite, and they like waited on me when I needed breaks. And yeah. And the views were pretty. Like, it was definitely very cold all the way at the top. I didn't get to see any lava that close, so I was kind of bummed. But the next morning we were able to see the beautiful views. In another video I could talk about my experience with hiking the volcano, because I just feel like that's a very detailed experience that I could make a whole video about. So I will most likely make a video about that. But anyways, yeah, so I hiked the volcano hike. I generally recommend hiking there if you do go to Guatemala, just because it's such an amazing experience. Like, I went alone on that hike, and I was able to meet people. People are very social. I learned a lot, and there was people from like Texas as well, and like all over like the not really United States. It was just like one from Texas, I think Colorado and California, and then like people all over from like Europe as well. And it was nice. People were very polite too. Yeah, everyone was like really great, and the weather wasn't so bad for us. It didn't really rain on us. It was very, very difficult. My calves were so sore the next day, and then going down, I felt like I was gonna break my knees. But yeah, and there was also dogs there too. I was surprised. Like, the dogs followed us all the way up to the top, and even like to the closer view. There was a little dog called Pepino, and she was so sweet. So I feel like going during that hike, that's what pushed me. I was like, these dogs are having the time of their life. Like, I need to push. But yeah, and then yeah, we slept there. And then the next morning there was another morning hike, but I was like, I'm not doing that. And so then we were able to see the sunrise, and that was so beautiful, because I was already up by like 4 a.m. and the sunrise was definitely very beautiful, and that's when the volcano kept erupting a lot. And then we went down our hike, and that was a really great experience too. It was brutal still. And then, what is it called? Then we like rode back to Antigua, and then it was just like we all said kind of goodbye and went our own way. And then I went back to like my hostel, and I don't remember what I did that day. Oh yeah, I like met this girl there that worked at this hostel. She was so amazing, and I told her about my experience, and I was able to really hang out with her for the next like, I think 3 days that I was spending there. Oh, I'm gonna go back a little bit. So the night, I think actually the day of where the day that I got there, at my hostel Somos, I booked a dinner because they had a family dinner there, but you had to pay an additional fee, which I was like, okay, why not? Like, I'm gonna be able to socialize with people, and they gave us a beer at the end, and it was vegetarian. So yeah, because the first day I just felt like it was very hard for me to make friends or like socialize, because I was like, oh, I'm out and about, and I just needed to sit down. But after that dinner, or during that dinner, I just felt like people were just so open to talking to you, because they were just like asking questions, and we were just all laughing, playing games, and it was just so cool hearing about other people's experience in Guatemala. And I feel like 9 out of 10, they're always gonna, 9 out of 10, they've already done the hike, or they're gonna do the hike or a volcano hike. So it was just nice having advice from them and hearing their experiences, and them like being like, you got this, you could do this, because I was just telling them how I've never hiked. But yeah, it was a really good dinner. But yeah, anyways, where was I? Let's see. Yeah, after the volcano hike, I was really able to really sightsee in Guatemala, which was really beautiful. It was so nice. I noticed that it rained a lot. I guess the raining season is, I want to say May or March to November, but it hadn't rained at all, I guess, until I got there the week of. So that was great. But then I noticed the pattern, which was, it would usually rain after 3 p.m. and after, so I'd have to be up at 6 a.m. And I remember it was Alitza, that was her name, the girl that I befriended that also works at Somos. She was like really great, and it was just a really great time with her. She was so sweet, and she also showed me around too, because I think she had also been there a couple days before I got there. And we did a yoga class, and that yoga class was so brutal. I don't know how I did a yoga class after doing a volcano hike, but yeah, it was very brutal. But it was just really nice seeing how people can move their bodies in such a different way, and like, I just did not think my body could do that, or anybody's body could do that. It's like one of those like intense IG posts or intense yoga IG posts. But yeah, regardless, it was a really cool experience. And then we were able to sightsee, and I remember I told this girl that like I met in my hostel, and I was talking to her, and she's like, yeah, like I want to go do this, and I was like, oh, you should join us. And then the next morning another girl also joined us. I invited her because she wanted to go do things too, and I was like, oh, you should just come with us. I just feel like the more the merrier, which was like nice, because you're not just alone. And I was able to wear a cute fit and not feel super duper weird, because the day before, I think, or I don't know when, I think it was the first day that I was there, there was a bus, and I know there was like a man in that bus, and there was like a lot of traffic, and I was just walking, and that man was like whistling at me, or just catcalling me the whole 4 blocks. And I just like did not acknowledge it. I feel like the best thing I could just do is just like not acknowledge catcalling, because you just never know when someone's gonna be very petty, and just it could escalate. Especially, I don't want to put myself in a dangerous situation, especially if I'm alone. So yeah, and I was just like, why are you doing this? But yeah, and so the next day, yeah, so we were able to sightsee, and it was really nice seeing like different parts of Guatemala. We were able to see like some ruins, and I think one spot is called El Mirador, so that's basically a spot where you go up a bunch of stairs, and my calves were done for. A bunch of stairs, and then you go see like a view of Antigua city, and it looks really pretty. We were able to get fruits, and it was just a really great time. We did so much walking, and I feel like it was really great and really easy to talk to people, because I was like, wow, I don't know, I literally just met these girls a couple hours ago, and we're just doing touristy things, and it just felt really great. But yeah, and then we had dinner, I believe, and then it rained on us, but we made it back to the hostel. I want to say, I think it was that day too. Yeah, I think it was Thursday, Friday. Yeah, it was that day that we were gonna get ready for what is it called, a bar crawl. And that with the hostel, I definitely recommend doing bar crawls with your hostel. I mean, I had a really great experience, and I felt like I got my money's worth, like way more than I thought I was going to. And yeah, and so it was like a group of girls, like, and obviously a bunch of more people from the hostel, but like I knew which girls were gonna go, and I was like, oh my god, like we're all gonna go, it's gonna be a great time. And it genuinely was. I'm so happy I did the bar crawl, because I felt like I really got a good experience of Antigua, like, you know, the nature side, the touristy and walking side, and then the party / club side, and that was so fun. The first club, like, it was like, I think one of the hosts, like, he gathers all of us in at our hostel that are gonna go there, and he walked us to the first bar, and then we all just were able to socialize with people, and it was like unlimited drinks, and it was just a really great time. And some people got tattoos. I was like, wow, but not me. I purposely only took a certain amount of cash, because I'm like, I'm not gonna spend any more. And yeah, some people were getting tattoos, and it was just a really great experience. I was able to meet people there. Like, people are just so open to socializing. Like, I felt like most of the time I remembered where they were from rather than their name, and it was just easy. And I did notice that there were a lot of Europeans traveling. Most of the time I found myself to be the only Latina or brown skinned girl there. But yeah, it was really great though. The bar crawl was amazing, and then after the bar club, we actually went to get street food. Like, it was me and Nalitza, and then the next day I was like up and out. Like, I literally woke up around, I think 5 or 6 a.m. and I took a shower, and that day I had booked my shuttle to like go to Lake Atitlan. I took a shower so fast, packed my bag, and I was like, Ria, I need to go, because in my mind I was like, I don't want to be taking the shuttle to Atitlan when it's 12. I'd rather just take it at 8 a.m. and beat traffic. And I'm glad I did that, because I was able to sleep in the shuttle and then also just like, what is it called, recover as well. So it was nice, and I was able to talk to some girl there and like really bond with her. And it was just, I feel like every time, like no matter where I was, I just met someone and I just like bonded with them, and just like it was just so nice hearing people and why they were traveling, their story, like how they ended up there, like what they were planning to do next, and all these like things. And it just felt nice. But yeah, so I got there and it was like nice, and I had like a dinner there or a lunch there by the lake. And then once I got in the boat, we were waiting for the rest of the people to like fill up the boat, and there was these two girls behind me that were just conversating, and I was like, like, you know, they sound like pretty cool, but I was just like, I'm like so tired. And then they sat like next to me, because the boat person was like, okay, like you need to even out the weight in the boat. And we were just like, I don't know how the conversation started, but we just started talking. And then it just happened that they were going to Casa del Mundo, which was a place that I wanted to go there when at Lake Atitan. And they were like, oh, you should come, like you already have everything with you, because I had like my book bag and everything with me. And they're like, yeah, you know what, you're right, like I'll just go right now. And I was really happy I did, because it was just a nice experience. And yeah, and I got to meet more people obviously, and I had lunch with them, and I was just like talking to them again, hearing their story, where they're from, like why they're there. And it was just a really great experience. And then I think after that situation, I told myself like, hey, like I feel socially drained, like because I was sitting there and they were such lovely welcoming girls, but I was like, I'm so drained, I want to be by myself. And so it was in that moment that I was like, yeah, like the next 3 days I'm not gonna really push to socialize, like I'm just gonna do me and at my own schedule, because I feel like the days before I was like, oh, do you want to come do this with me, or like, you know, I would just add people to like my itinerary. And so I was like, yeah, like this time I'm like, if my hostel mates like ask me like what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna be like, yeah, I'm gonna do this and this, because in the past I'd be like, oh, do you want to come? And most people would be like very open to coming with me or joining me. But yeah, and so I think, oh yeah, and so in this hostel I like checked in, it was pouring. It was really cool seeing Lake Atitlan. Lake Atitlan was so beautiful. Oh, now I remember. It was free cerveza. It was really cool. I really liked it. The vibes were pretty there. I slept in a tent with 3 other girls. The tent wasn't so bad, but I don't think I'm ever gonna do that again, because I like to sleep in a place where I know the bathroom is like, not that place the bathroom was far, but it just felt too open in nature. So yeah, because I would have to pee at 2 in the morning, and I would hear dogs barking, and I would just get so scared, because I'm like, what is gonna pop out in the night? So yeah. But yeah, so it was really great staying at Lake Atitlan. The views were beautiful, the water was so nice. It was really cool experience taking like little boat rides to every little town in Lake Atitlan, because it's so huge. And yeah, so I think the next day I was able to like view every single little town. Like I went to, I think, San Pedro, San Juan, I forgot, they all have like San Juan or San or Juan on it on their titles, but they were all really cool. Each town had its own little vibe. There was one that was like a very hippie town, and very, you know, very very hippie. And then there was another one, and hippie and vegetarian. There was other one with a lot of like colors and like beautiful murals. I think that was San Juan. I want to say, or San Pedro. But anyways, yeah, one of them, like, there, it was so beautiful. I love the colors there. I was able to like really shop for like gifts there, and it was just so beautiful. And then the other one, I didn't, it was okay. I think I forgot which one it was called, but I guess a lot of like is people from Israel go there, and the only reason I know is because I asked which place is vegetarian friendly, because I'm vegetarian, and I guess that place was very vegetarian friendly. But the person, after I got off the boat, they dropped me off on the side, which was not in the main dock area, so I was the only one that got off, and there was a group of men just sitting out there, and I just felt so disgusted walking past them because I could just tell they were staring at me, and I felt so unsafe, especially because there was like no one really around the area that I was at. There was just like a little, like three group of three kids just sitting down there, and one of them was like playing soccer, and I just sat next to this girl, and like I was like, let me just pretend I'm part of their family if anything. And so I was just like talking to the little kids, asking them like, oh, like what's your name, like what are you guys doing? Like I was just like bonding with some little kids, and then it hit me because I was like, oh my god, this little girl looks like my twin. I don't know if I have a photo of it right now, but like she literally was like a little mini version of me, a little brown girl with bangs and a short hair too, and I was like, oh my gosh, I just started laughing, but they were so cute. And then I went to get a drink at a smoothie place that was there, and I met like a guy from England, and he was like talking in Spanish, and again, easy to socialize, and he was also leaving there, so I just like walked with him to the dock, and he was just like gave me advice on like, yeah, if you ever feel unsafe going to somewhere, just leave right away, it's just safer. And I was just like, yeah, he's right, like trust my gut feeling. The next day, that's when I did with my hostel, there was a morning paddling in the morning to see the sunrise, and that was really beautiful. I never ever done paddling, so I was really scared to fall or something, but it was really cool. I just like sat on my board, and we were able to paddle and just see the sunrise, and that was very beautiful. That was the second day before I left, and that day was more of like a nature vibe for me. Like I was able to really paddle in the morning, and then I got breakfast, and I read more of my book. And I would say I would recommend, if you're traveling by yourself, take a good book to read, just like one. And it's really great because I didn't always want to be on the phone the whole time, so it was just nice reading a book. And the book that I was reading was Homegoing, and it was very triggering and just a really good book. I'm still finishing it, but it was a really good book. Just reading it, because there was a part where I was like, I can't stop reading this, and I would just tear up. But yeah, and then I think in the afternoon, with my hostel, they have paddles you could rent out at no cost, so I was able to paddle at my own liking, and it was nice because I was just like, I've never stood up on a paddleboard, and I asked this girl who was like sunbathing in the dock if she could take photos of me, and she obviously did, and it was just really great, and she gave me advice, and people were also paddling out there, and they also gave me advice, and I just like would get up and fall so many times. Like it was so embarrassing, but I just kept going, and it was just a really great experience. And I feel like that was my favorite part of this trip, because I was like, wow, like I suck at this, but I'm still doing it, and it just feels so good to just do something, and it just felt good to be also alone. But yeah, and then I also went to Casa del Mundo back again to swim and take more photos. If you're alone traveling, you can get some good photos. I genuinely got good photos. I would just ask random people. I remember when I think I was San Juan, I went up to a family and I asked the mom, I was like, hey, can you take photos of me by any chance? And then she gave it to her son, which was like a teenager, and he's like, oh, tómale fotos a esa muchacha, which is basically in Spanish like, oh, take photos of this like lady. And then this little kid takes photos of me, and I just was laughing, but he got the angles, so that was a really good experience. Like whenever, like I felt like the best way to ask people to take photos of me would just be like, oh, like ask them, because most people want photos taken of themselves, so I would take photos of them and be like, oh, could you possibly take some of me, and they're more than willing to do that. The last day I did spend at Atitlan, it was just, like I said, a nature day, and it was really great. I was able to swim by myself, and there was this part where I was taking photos of myself, and there was a group of girls like kind of nearby at Casa del Mundo, and I obviously didn't hear them laughing at me, but I know that they were staring at me. But I was like, girl, just take photos of yourself. I propped my phone up to next to my water bottle, and I was just taking photos because I was like, who the cares? Like literally, who the fuck cares if you're taking photos of yourself? Like you're alone, who cares how you're perceived, and like it's for you. And I did that, and I'm really happy that I was just like, I just kept taking photos confidently, because I know it's like that feeling whenever you're at the gym and you're alone in the bathroom and you're like, oh, you're posing and taking like your good angles and everything, and then someone walks in and you're like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. But it's like, why are you apologizing? Don't apologize, like keep taking them photos. But yeah, so I was really happy that I was just really able to get out of my comfort zone, because I really got the best experience out of that. And then that day I had I had checked out of my hostel, and then I took the shuttle to all the way to from Lake Atitlan to Guatemala City, and then I stayed in my hostel. And then I went to, in my hostel it was a little sketchy. I want to say the area wasn't sketchy, but it was dark, and I was really nervous to go to my hostel, but it was in a gated location, so it wasn't bad, and there was a security person that was there. And yeah, my hostel was nice. I booked a room, and it was shared with, I think, 5 other beds, but there was only one other girl that stayed there with me, and then another girl in the middle of the night. And it was just so nice having a shower and a bathroom that was just there in the same room, and I didn't have to walk a couple feet away, like I did in Lake Atitan. But it was really nice, because even when I was like in my bed, the girl that I had met was from, I think, Canada, and she was just like talking to me, and we were just like talking about random things, and it was just nice. And she was so sweet. And yeah, and then the next day they dropped me off. I had free breakfast with the hostel, and then they dropped me off at the airport, and I took my flights and went back to Houston. Things that I learned from this trip was really listening to myself. I feel that it was really good to just listen to my own intuition and realize when I felt like socially drained, and being okay with acknowledging that I was socially drained, because I was around so many people and always talking to people. So it was just really nice to actually listen to myself and be okay with being alone, and telling myself like, okay, no, you need to be alone now. And I also learned really how to find more comfort and peace in my own solitude. Yeah, I really recommend solo traveling for anyone who's watching this, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video.